there is a small salon on Adewale Street that people talk about in hushed voices. Not because anything bad happens there, not at all, but because of the woman who runs it, Aisha. Aisha is not the kind of person who will shout her own name or paste big banners outside her shop. She doesn't need to. Word of mouth has done more for her business than any advertisement ever could. Women travel from 3, sometimes 4 streets away just to sit in her chair. Some come from even further. But before you enter Aisha's salon, there is one rule, just one, and it is the rule that makes people talk. No mirror. You cannot bring a mirror inside, not a small pocket one, not the mirror on your phone camera, nothing. And if you look around inside the salon itself, you will notice something strange. There is no mirror on the wall either. Most salons you walk into, the first thing you see is a big mirror right in front of the chair. Not here. The walls are plain. Just paint, a calendar from 2 years ago, and a small framed picture of a woman Aisha never talks about. People asked her about it when she first opened. She would just smile and say, "Trust the process." Some customers didn't like it. A few walked out. But the ones who stayed, they never went anywhere else again. Because here is the thing about Aisha. The woman has hands that don't make sense. A style that a normal stylist would spend the whole day doing, sitting down from morning, taking breaks, eating rice, standing up, sitting back down. Aisha will finish it in 30 minutes. 30. The kind of tight, detailed braiding that makes your eyes hurt just looking at it. She will complete it before you finish the gist you were telling her. And when you stand up and she hands you, well, she doesn't hand you a mirror, she walks you to the door instead. And every single woman walks out looking like they just came from somewhere expensive. The hair is neat. Not just neat, it is the kind of neat that makes other women on the street stop and ask, "Where did you do this?" The braids are tight, but they don't pull your edges. The styles sit properly on the head. And somehow Aisha's work lasts longer than anyone else's. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the hair still looks fresh like she just finished it this morning. So customers keep coming. They fill up the small benches outside her shop. They wait without complaining because they know what is waiting for them on the other side of that wait. Aisha moves from one head to the next, calm and quiet, humming something under her breath. Nobody really knows where she trained. She doesn't talk about herself much. She is friendly enough. She will laugh at your joke. She will ask about your children, your husband, your mother's health. But if you try to dig into her past, she has a way of steering the conversation somewhere else without you even noticing. The no mirror rule, her impossible speed, the way her work outlasts every other stylist in the area. For a long time, people just accepted it. For a long time, nobody asked too many questions. But that was before.
It started small, the way gossip always starts. One woman, Mama Tunde, the provision seller 2 blocks away, she was the first to say it out loud. She had been a customer of Aisha's for almost a year at that point. Good customer too, never missed her appointment. But one afternoon, she was sitting outside waiting her turn, and something just came over her. She leaned over to the woman sitting next to her and said quietly, "Have you ever wondered why there's no mirror in this place?" The other woman, a younger girl named Folake, shrugged. "She probably just doesn't like mirrors." "Nobody just doesn't like mirrors," Mama Tunde said. "Every salon in this area has mirror. My sister's salon in Ojota has 4 mirrors. 4. This one doesn't have even one small one." Folake didn't have an answer for that. And that small conversation, that tiny seed, somehow spread. By the next week, 3 different women on the street were talking about it. Then it jumped to the next street. Then somebody mentioned it at a naming ceremony. And now 20 people were discussing Aisha and her no mirror rule over jollof rice and chicken. The stories started coming from different angles. Some people said Aisha was using the hair, that she collected women's hair and was doing something with it at night. That the reason the styles lasted so long was not skill, it was something else. Something they didn't want to say directly, but everybody understood what they meant. One woman swore that her cousin's friend used to be a customer and she started having bad dreams after she did her hair there. Nobody could verify this cousin or this friend, but that didn't stop the story from spreading. Others had a different theory. They said Aisha was too fast to be normal. 30 minutes for a style that takes 8 hours? They said she had made a deal, that somewhere, somehow, she had exchanged something to get those hands. And the mirror? The mirror would reveal what she really was if anyone looked. Some people were more simple about it. They said maybe she was just hiding something. Maybe the hair she was making wasn't as fine as people thought, and without a mirror, you couldn't see the back properly. Maybe the whole thing was a con, and women were walking out looking worse than they thought. But here's what was funny. And even the gossipers had to admit this if they were being honest. None of the women who actually sat in Aisha's chair were complaining. Not one. Every single customer that came out of that salon was happy. Their hair looked good, it lasted, it didn't break their edges. There was no evidence of anything wrong. That made some people even more suspicious. "That's how these things work," Mama Tunde told her neighbor. "Everything looks fine on the outside. That's the whole point." The gossip reached Aisha eventually. These things always do. One of her loyal customers, a woman named Bisi, who had been coming since almost the beginning, sat down in the chair one afternoon and said, "Aisha, I have to tell you what they are saying about you outside." Aisha listened. She didn't stop working. Her hands kept moving through the hair, parting and braiding, at that speed that still made Bisi uncomfortable to watch, even after all this time. When Bisi finished talking, Aisha was quiet for a moment. Then she just said, "Are they still coming to do their hair?" Bisi blinked. "Yes, some of them, yes." "Then it's fine," Aisha said. And that was all she said about it. But Bisi noticed something. Just before Aisha said those words, just for 1 second, something passed across her face. Not anger, not fear exactly. Something else. Something Bisi couldn't name. She thought about that look for days after. Amarachi was not a bad person. That is the first thing you need to understand. She was just a woman who wanted her hair done. She had come to Lagos to visit her brother Chukwuemeke, who had a shop in Alaba Market, electronics business. She was supposed to stay for 2 weeks, and she wanted to look good while she was there. Simple as that. Back home in Aba, she had her regular stylist, but that one was far now, so she needed someone in Lagos. It was Chukwuemeke's neighbour in the market, a woman named Mrs. Okafor, who told her about Aisha. "That woman's hands are blessed," Mrs. Okafor said. "Just go there, you won't regret it." She gave her the address, and that was that. Amarachi didn't know about any rules. Nobody told her. Mrs. Okafor assumed she knew, the way people who have lived somewhere for long assume that everybody knows what they know. So Amarachi packed her bag that morning, put in her purse, her phone, a small handkerchief, a chewing gum, and her little mirror, the small oval one with the pink plastic handle that she had carried in her bag for years. She didn't even think about it. It was just part of what goes inside a bag. She found the salon without too much trouble, came in, greeted Aisha. They talked small, the way women do when they first meet. Aisha asked what style she wanted. Amarachi described it. They agreed on a price, and Amarachi sat down. And Aisha started working. Even Amarachi, who had never heard any story about this woman, could tell immediately that something was different. The speed alone. She kept waiting for Aisha to slow down or stop to rest her hands, but it never happened. The fingers just kept going, quick and sure, like they already knew where every strand was supposed to go before they even got there. Amarachi wanted to ask about it, but something about Aisha's quiet focus made her not want to interrupt, so she just sat there, listening to the small sound of Aisha humming and the sound of market noise coming in from outside. After some time, Amarachi started wondering how far the hair had gone. It was a detailed style, and she wanted to know if they were halfway or just starting. It was a normal thing to wonder. She reached into her bag slowly, not making any big movement, just feeling around for her small mirror with the pink handle. Her fingers found it. She brought it out and lifted it up to see the reflection of the back of her head. What happened next, Amarachi could not fully explain for weeks after. Aisha screamed. Not a small sound, a real scream, the kind that comes from somewhere deep, like pain that has been there for a long time and something just pressed directly on it. Every other customer in the salon froze. The woman whose hair was being oiled near the door stopped moving. The girl who was sweeping in the corner held her broom in the air. Aisha moved so fast, she grabbed the mirror from Amarachi's hand, and before anyone could say anything, she threw it on the floor. The pink-handled mirror hit the ground and cracked into 3 pieces. Then silence. Amarachi's heart was beating fast. She didn't know if she should stand up or stay sitting. She had not done anything wrong as far as she was concerned. She just brought out a mirror. What happened?" she managed to say. Aisha had her back turned. Her shoulders were moving up and down slowly, like she was trying to bring her breathing back to normal. Nobody in the salon said a word. Even the outside noise seemed to have gone quiet. After a long moment, Aisha turned around. Her face was back to calm, but if you looked closely, really closely, her eyes were doing something different. Something was sitting behind them that wasn't there before. "I'm sorry," Aisha said. Her voice was steady, but it cost her something to make it steady, you could tell. "No mirrors inside my salon. I should have told you before we started." Amarachi looked at the broken pieces on the floor, her pink mirror. She had bought that thing in Ariaria Market 4 years ago. "You broke my mirror," she said, quietly, not shouting, just stating it. "I will replace it," Aisha said. "I'm sorry." The other customers slowly started moving again. The girl with the broom put it back to the floor.
The woman at the door exhaled, but nobody said anything. Nobody asked questions, because somehow, without anyone explaining it, everybody in that room understood that they had just seen something. They didn't know exactly what, but they had seen something. Amarachi sat back, let Aisha continue her hair. What else was she going to do? Stand up and leave with half her head done? But she was quiet for the rest of the session, and she kept looking at Aisha's face in the corner of her eye, trying to figure out what kind of woman screams like that over a small mirror. She left that day with the finest hair she had ever had on her head, clean, tight, perfect. But she also left with questions she didn't have when she walked in, and those broken pieces of pink mirror were still on the floor when she walked out. Aisha had not touched them.
It had been 4 days. 4 days, and Amarachi could not stop thinking about what happened in that salon. She tried. She went to Alaba market with her brother. She ate suya by the roadside. She watched films on her phone at night. She called her friend back in Aba and gisted for almost an hour. But somehow, her mind kept finding its way back to that scream, that sound Aisha made when the mirror came out, the way she grabbed it, the way the pink handle cracked on the floor. Normal people don't react to mirrors like that. She didn't tell her brother about it. Chukwuemeka was a very straightforward kind of man, the type that doesn't believe in anything he cannot put his hands on. He would have told her to forget it and mind her business. So she kept it to herself and turned it over in her head quietly for those 4 days. On the 5th day, she made up her mind. She was going back. She didn't have a plan exactly. She just felt like there was something unfinished, like a sentence that somebody started and never completed. She wanted to look Aisha in the eye and just understand whatever there was to understand. She found her way back to Adewani Street that morning. The bench outside the salon already had 2 women sitting on it, waiting. Normal day, normal customers. Amarachi stepped past them and pushed the door open. The moment Aisha looked up and saw her, everything changed. The calm woman who had been working quietly on somebody's hair, the same Aisha who had spoken to her softly and apologized for the mirror 4 days ago, that woman disappeared. What replaced her was something Amarachi was not prepared for. "You, this lady!" Aisha's voice came out sharp and loud enough that the woman whose hair she was holding flinched. "You have come back here? After the torment you have been putting me through?" Amarachi blinked. She stood in the doorway, not sure if she had entered the right salon. "Me? Torment?" "Since that day," Aisha said, pointing at her. Her hand was shaking slightly. "Since that day you brought that thing into my shop, I have not had a single night of rest. Not one. You don't know what you did. You don't know." The 2 women inside the salon were very still. This was better than any film they had seen recently, and nobody wanted to move and interrupt it. Amarachi felt her own chest tighten, but she forced herself to stay calm. She could see that Aisha was not angry the way a normal person is angry. This was something else. The woman looked tired, really tired, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. Her eyes had rings under them, and her hands, those famous fast hands, were not steady the way they normally were. Whatever was happening to Aisha, it had been happening since that day. Amarachi took one breath. Then she stepped fully inside the salon and let the door close behind her. She spoke quietly, the way you speak to someone standing too close to the edge of something. "Aisha, calm down. I'm not here to cause trouble. Just calm down and talk to me." "Talk to you?" Aisha laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. "Yes, talk to me." Amarachi moved a little closer. "Look at yourself. When last did you sleep properly? When last did you eat well?" She could tell from Aisha's face that those questions landed somewhere. "Something is happening to you, and maybe, just maybe, I can help. but you have to talk to me first." Aisha opened her mouth, then closed it. The two customers in the salon were doing their absolute best to look like they were not listening. They were failing completely. Aisha looked at Amarachi for a long moment. Something moved in her face. The anger was still there, but underneath it was something that looked very much like exhaustion. And underneath even that, something that looked almost like relief, like a person who has been carrying a heavy load alone for a long time and somebody has just offered to hold one side. "Come outside," Aisha said, low voice, almost a whisper. She dropped the comb she was holding on the table, told the customer in the chair she would be back in a few minutes, and walked to the door. Amarachi followed her out. They stood on the side of the building, away from the waiting bench, away from the street noise, just the two of them in the small shadow between Aisha's salon and the wall of the next building. Aisha leaned against the wall, looked up at the sky for a second like she was asking permission from something up there. Then she looked at Amarachi. "If I tell you," she said, slowly, "you will not believe me." Amarachi crossed her arms. "Try me," she said.
Aisha leaned against that wall for a moment before she started talking, like she was arranging the words in the right order inside her head. Or maybe like she was deciding one last time whether to say them at all. Then she started. "My mother is from Katsina," she said. "Small village, not the city. Very quiet place. She married my father when she was young, and they were happy. Good marriage, no problems, except one." She paused. "Children. My mother could not carry a child. They tried for years. Nothing. They went to hospitals. They tried everything those doctors suggested. Still nothing. My father was patient at first, but you know how it is. Family will start talking. His mother, his aunties, everybody had something to say. My mother just kept quiet and kept trying. Amarachi didn't say anything, just listened. There was a river near their village," Aisha continued. "Old river, the kind that has been there longer than anyone can remember. People in that village believed a goddess lived inside that river. Most of the younger people didn't take it serious. They said it was just old people's superstition. But my mother was desperate. When you have been waiting for a child for years and nothing is working, you stop caring what people think. You will try anything." She folded her arms across her chest. So she started going to the river. Every week she would go there, kneel by the water and pray, talk to whatever was inside that river, ask for a child. She did this for 1 year, nothing happened. She did it for 2 years, still nothing. People in the village heard about it and started laughing at her, calling her names behind her back, saying she was wasting her time talking to water. Aisha's jaw tightened slightly when she said that part. But my mother didn't stop. She kept going. 3rd year, same thing. She would go to that river, kneel down, pray, go back home. Kneel down, pray, go back home. And then one day in that 3rd year, something different happened. Amarachi shifted slightly, but didn't speak. My mother said she was kneeling by the water the way she always did when the river started moving. Not because of wind, not because of any current, just moving on its own from inside. And then something came out. The noise from the street felt very far away suddenly. She said it was a woman, or something that looked like a woman. She came out of the water and stood there, and my mother was so frightened she couldn't even run. Her legs just refused to work. But the woman, the goddess, she spoke calmly.
She said she had been watching my mother for 3 years. She said she had seen her come to that river in the rain, in the heat, when she was sick, when she was tired. She said she had tested my mother's dedication, and my mother had passed every test. Aisha stopped for a second, swallowed. The goddess told her she would give her a child, not just any child, a daughter. She said this daughter would be so gifted with her hands that she would never suffer in her life, that her talent would speak for her wherever she went, and people would always come to her. She said the daughter would be a hairstylist, and her work would be unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Amarachi felt something move through her quietly, like a cold breeze that comes from nowhere. But, Aisha said, and the way she said that one word, you could hear the weight of everything sitting inside it. There was one condition. She looked at Amarachi directly now. The goddess said nobody must ever see this daughter looking into a mirror, not her reflection in a mirror, not her image in still water, nothing like that. She said the gift lives in the hands and the hands alone. The moment this daughter looks at her own reflection, the gift will begin to leave, slowly at first, then faster. And if she ever sees her full reflection, everything stops. The talent, the speed, everything gone. Silence. Aisha said, my mother agreed. What else was she going to do? She wanted a child more than anything. She agreed, and she went home. 3 months later, she was pregnant. She looked down at her hands, those same hands that could braid in 30 minutes what others spent 8 hours doing. She named me Aisha, and from when I was small, she made sure no mirrors in the house, no looking into buckets of water. She explained it to me when I was old enough to understand, and I accepted it. What choice did I have? This gift was mine, but it came with its rules. She looked back up at Amarachi. So that is why my salon has no mirrors. That is why customers cannot bring them inside. Because if I even catch a glimpse of my own face by accident, I can feel it, like something pulling away from my hands, like sand slipping between your fingers. Amarachi was quiet for a moment. The street noise came back slowly. And the day I brought out my mirror, Amarachi said slowly, I saw it, just for a second, just a flash of my own face in that mirror before I smashed it. And since that day, she stopped, pressed her lips together. Since that day, my hands have not been the same. I can still work, but the speed is slower. The feeling in my fingers is not the same as before. And at night, I cannot sleep because I can feel it. I can feel the gift moving, like it is restless, like something disturbed it. She pushed herself off the wall. So now you know everything. Amarachi stood there for a long time after Aisha finished. Her mind was going in 10 different directions at once. She believed her. That was the strange part. She had come here thinking maybe she would hear something she could logically explain. But standing there looking at this woman's tired face and shaking hands, Amarachi believed every single word. The question now was what to do with it.
Aisha wasn't done talking. It was like something had opened inside her, like a tap that had been shut for years, and now that it was finally loose, the water just kept coming. She leaned back against that wall and kept going. When I am making someone's hair, she said, I am not fully there. Amarachi frowned. What do you mean you are not there? I mean exactly that. Aisha tapped the side of her head. My body is there. My hands are moving. My mouth is talking to the customer. I am laughing and gisting with them. But the part of me that is really me, that part steps back. Something else comes forward and takes over. That is what does the work. She said it so casually, like she was describing how she makes her morning tea. The spirit? Amarachi asked. Aisha nodded. It enters me the moment I pick up a comb. I don't even feel it coming anymore. It has been happening for so long. 1 second I am myself, the next second I am still in my body, but I'm watching from somewhere behind my own eyes. And the hands just go, fast and sure and perfect, like the hair is already done, and the hands are just revealing what was always there. Amarachi thought about what she had seen, those fingers moving at a speed that made no sense. Now it made a different kind of sense, a terrifying kind. "And the customers?" Amarachi asked. "Can they tell?" Aisha shook her head. "Nobody can tell. I look normal to them. I talk, I laugh, I answer questions, but I am not the one answering. The spirit is very smooth. It has been doing this long enough to know how to behave like me. Sometimes it behaves more like me than I do." She said that last part quietly, and it hung in the air between them. "That is how I made my money," Aisha continued, "because when something else is doing the work and doing it in 30 minutes, I can take 10, 12 customers in one day, every single one paying good money, rain or shine, every day. That was my life. The money piled up. I bought land, I built houses, I bought cars. I have accounts that most people in this area cannot imagine." She paused. "My mother's prayer was answered. I have truly never suffered." She didn't sound happy about it. "So what is the problem?" Amarachi asked, even though she could already see the shape of the answer. "The problem," Aisha said, "is that I am tired. I am so tired of sharing my body with something else. Every day it enters me. Every day I stand aside inside my own self and watch it use my hands. At first, when I was young, I didn't mind. I was making money, customers loved me, my mother was proud. But now?" She shook her head slowly. "Now I am not a young woman anymore. I have everything I need. I have more than enough. I don't need the spirit to keep coming." Her voice dropped lower. "I want my body back. I want to make hair with my own 2 hands, even if it takes 8 hours, even if I can only take 2 customers a day. I want it to be me doing the work, just me, not something riding on my back like I am a vehicle." Amarachi was very still. "But the spirit," Aisha continued, and now something that was very close to fear moved across her face. "Like the spirit got angry, really angry, like seeing my own reflection broke something between us, and now it is punishing me. The sleepless nights, the shaking, the noise I hear, all of it got worse after that day." "So you have been suffering since then," Amarachi said. "Since that day I have not had 1 full night of sleep, not one." Her voice cracked very slightly at that part, just slightly. She was not the kind of woman who cried in front of people, you could tell. She looked at her hands again, like she was looking at 2 things that didn't fully belong to her. She straightened up. "I have money, I have property, I have everything my mother prayed for me to have. But what is the use of all of it if I cannot sleep in my own house, if I cannot walk around in my own body and feel like it is mine?" She shook her head. "I don't want this anymore. I don't care about the gift. I don't care about the speed or the customers or the money. I want to be free. I want to be just a normal woman who does hair and goes home at night and sleeps." She looked at Amarachi straight. "But I don't know how to make that happen, and I don't know who to ask." Amarachi stood there. The afternoon sun was doing something warm and ordinary on the street in front of them. Market noise, generator sounds, someone frying something nearby, all very normal, all very far from what was being said in this small shadow beside a hair salon. She thought about Katsina. She thought about a river. She thought about a woman kneeling by water for 3 years asking for a child. She thought about a gift that was never really free. "Let me think," Amarachi said quietly.
Amarachi walked back to her brother's house that afternoon with her head full. She had come to Lagos to visit family and do her hair. That was all. Simple trip. And somehow she had ended up standing beside a salon wall listening to a story about river goddesses and spirits that enter people's bodies and gifts that come with chains attached. She kept replaying Aisha's face as she talked, the tiredness in it, the way she looked at her own hands like they were strangers. By the time she got back to Chukwuemeka's house, she had made up her mind about one thing. She was going to try to help. She didn't know exactly how yet, but she knew someone who might. She waited until evening when the compound was quiet and her brother had gone to sit outside with his neighbors the way he always did after dinner. Then she found a corner of the room, sat on the edge of the bed, and called her mother. Her mother picked up on the third ring. "Amarachi, my daughter, how is Lagos?" "Lagos is fine, Mama." She kept her voice low, even though nobody was nearby. "Mama, I need to tell you something serious." Her mother's voice shifted immediately. Mothers always know. "What happened? Are you okay?" "I am fine. It's not about me." She took a breath, and then she told her everything. From the salon, to the mirror, to Aisha's reaction, to the conversation outside by the wall. She told her about the river in Katsina, the goddess, the mother who prayed for 3 years, the gift and its condition. She told her about the spirit that enters Aisha's body when she works and the torment that has been happening since the mirror incident. Her mother was quiet for a long time after she finished. "Mama, you are there?" "I am here." Her mother's voice was careful now, measured, the way it got when she was taking something seriously. "This is not a small thing, Amarachi." "I know." "You said this woman wants to be free." "That is what she told me. She said she doesn't want it anymore. She has enough money, she has property, she just wants to live her life normally." Another silence from her mother's end. "Let me make some inquiries," her mother said finally. "There are people I can talk to, people who understand these kinds of things better than I do. Give me 3 days." 3 days, Amarachi repeated. "And Amarachi," her mother's voice dropped slightly, "be careful. Whatever is attached to this woman, it did not come from a small place. You hear me? Be careful." "Yes, Mama." They said goodnight, and Amarachi put her phone down. She felt a little better having told someone. She lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling for a while, listening to the sound of her brother laughing outside with his neighbors. Normal sound, everyday sound. She closed her eyes. She was more tired than she realized because sleep came quickly. No tossing, no turning. One moment she was awake, and the next she was gone. And then, somewhere deep in the middle of that sleep, something changed. It is hard to explain what it feels like when a dream stops being a dream, but Amarachi had experienced enough in her life to know the difference. One moment she was in some scattered dream about a market and noise and color. Then the market dissolved, the noise stopped, everything went quiet and still in a way that felt nothing like normal sleep. She was standing somewhere dark, not frightening dark, just empty, like a space that existed between places. And then she felt it, a presence, heavy and old and very, very cold, the kind of cold that has nothing to do with temperature. It pressed into the space around her like something large moving close. Then a voice. She could not tell you what it sounded like. Not male, not female, not loud, but it filled everything, like it wasn't coming from one direction, but from every direction at the same time. "Leave her alone." Amarachi felt her chest tighten in the dream. She couldn't move her legs. "What is between me and Aisha is not your concern. Go back to Abba. Go back to your life. What you are putting your nose into is older than you and bigger than you, and I will not warn you twice." The coldness pressed closer. Amarachi felt it on her skin like hands that weren't quite touching her, but were very close. "I gave that family everything. Her mother had nothing, and I gave her a daughter and wealth and a good life. What I asked for in return is mine. Aisha is mine. Her hands are mine. And no outsider, no stranger who came to Lagos to visit her brother in a Alaba market will come between me and what belongs to me." The last words came with something, a pressure on her chest, like a hand pressing down from above, slow and deliberate. Amarachi tried to speak in the dream. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. "The next warning will not be with words." Then it was gone, just like that. The coldness lifted, the darkness thinned, and Amarachi jerked awake so hard she nearly fell off the bed. She was sitting upright, breathing fast, her hand pressed against her own chest. The room was normal. The ceiling fan was turning. Outside, she could still hear faint noise from the street. Everything was exactly as it should be. But her body knew something had happened. Her hands were shaking, not slightly, properly shaking, the way they do after something really frightens you. And the cold that she had felt in that dream, that heavy, unnatural cold, she could still feel the edge of it on her skin even now that she was awake. She sat on that bed for a long time without moving. She thought about calling her mother back right that moment. She looked at her phone, 2:47 a.m. She put the phone back down. She thought about the voice, the way it said, "Aisha is mine." Not like a goddess who had done a favor, like an owner talking about a possession, like something that had never planned to let go. Amarachi pulled her wrapper tighter around her, even though the night was warm. She thought about what her mother had said, "Be careful." Then she thought about Aisha's face, those tired eyes, those shaking hands, a woman trapped inside her own life with no door out. Amarachi lay back down slowly. She did not sleep again that night.
3 days. Amarachi counted every one of them. She didn't sleep well for any of those 3 nights. The first night was the worst because of what happened. The second night was better, but not by much. She would drift off, and then something, just a sound or a shadow at the edge of her sleep, would pull her back up. By the 3rd day, she had dark circles under her eyes, and her brother had started asking her if she was okay. "I'm fine," she told him. "Lagos heat is just affecting me." Chukwuemeka didn't look fully convinced, but he let it go. He was not the type to push. She went about those 3 days normally, went to the market with her brother, ate, watched television in the evening, did all the regular things. But underneath all of it, she was waiting. Every time her phone vibrated, she grabbed it, and when it was just a random message or a network notification, she would put it back down and go back to waiting. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, her phone rang. Her mother. She picked it before the 2nd ring finished. "Mama?" "Amarachi." Her mother's voice was different from their last call, more settled, like she had done what she needed to do, and now she knew where she stood. "I have spoken to people. I know what to do." Amarachi sat up straight. "Tell me." "Listen carefully, because I will not repeat this plenty times. Write it down if you have to." Amarachi grabbed a small notepad from her bag, the same bag that had started this whole thing with its pink-handled mirror. She found a pen. "I am ready." Her mother started talking. "Aisha needs to go to a native market, not a regular market, a proper native market where they sell these kinds of things. She will buy 3 items, a native mirror, native chalk, and native eggs. 7 eggs, not 6, not 8, 7. Amarachi was writing quickly.
The native chalk she will grind herself, not give to anybody to grind for her. She must do it with her own hands until it becomes very fine powder, like flour, no lumps. Okay. Now, this next part is important. Her mother paused for a small moment. It must be done at exactly 12 o'clock afternoon, not 11, not 12:30, 12 o'clock when the sun is at its highest and hottest. That sun is important. The heat of that hour is part of what makes this work. Amarachi underlined 12 p.m. on her notepad. The native mirror must be large, large enough to show her full body from head to feet when she stands in front of it. Not a small mirror, not a medium one. Her whole body must be visible in it at once. This is non-negotiable. Full body mirror, Amarachi repeated as she wrote. She will cover this mirror completely with a white wrapper before she stands in front of it. The wrapper must be white, nothing printed, nothing colored, just plain white. She will cover the mirror fully so that no part of it is showing. Then she will stand directly in front of it. Amarachi's hand was moving fast across the notepad. When she is standing there, she will have the ground chalk in one hand and the 7 eggs ready nearby. Then she will remove the white wrapper from the mirror. Amarachi stopped writing for a second. She knew what that meant. The moment that mirror was uncovered, Aisha would see her full reflection. After all these years of avoiding every mirror, every still water, every shiny surface, she would see herself completely. "Mama," she said slowly, "when she removes that wrapper and sees herself." "The spirit will come out," her mother said, like it was obvious. It has been living inside her for years. When it suddenly sees itself reflected fully in a native mirror under that 12 o'clock sun, it will be forced out. It cannot stay inside when that happens. And then? And then Aisha must not waste 1 second. The moment the spirit comes out, she should throw the chalk powder at it, all of it, and the 7 eggs, one after the other, throw them at the spirit. Amarachi chewed the inside of her cheek. And that will work? The native chalk weakens it, the eggs bind it, and the mirror traps its reflection so it cannot easily go back inside her. Her mother's voice was very steady. This was not guesswork, you could tell. Whoever she had spoken to those 3 days knew what they were talking about. But make sure everything is exactly right. Amarachi looked at her notepad. She had filled almost a full page. "There is one more thing," her mother said. "What?" "Aisha cannot do this alone. Somebody must be there with her, not to do anything, just to be present, because when that spirit comes out, it will be angry, very angry, and a frightened person standing alone in that moment might run or panic, and then everything will scatter." A pause. Somebody with sense must be standing beside her. Amarachi already knew what was coming before her mother said it. "You brought yourself into this matter, Amarachi. You must see it to the end." She closed her eyes for a second. "I know, Mama." And Amarachi, her mother's voice softened just slightly, not much, just enough. "I know it is not a small thing I am asking. I know what visited you that night, but this woman needs help, and you are the one standing closest to her right now. Sometimes that is how these things choose who they choose." Amarachi looked at the notepad in her hand, neat little instructions for something that had no business existing in the same world as Alaba market and generator noise and jollof rice. "I will do it, Mama." "Good." Her mother exhaled slowly. "Go to Aisha tomorrow. Tell her everything I told you. And Amarachi, be careful. I know." "No," her mother said, and her voice had something in it now that was very serious. "I was going to say, be fast. Whatever you are going to do it quickly. That spirit already knows you are involved. It warned you once. It will not stay patient forever."
Amarachi went to the salon early the next morning. Aisha was already there when she arrived, opening up for the day, arranging her combs the way she always did, but she stopped the moment she saw Amarachi walking towards her. No shouting this time, no outburst. She just stood there and waited. "My mother called," Amadachi said. Aisha nodded slowly, like she had been expecting this, like somewhere inside herself she had already accepted that something was coming and she just needed to know what shape it would take. They went inside the salon, and Amadachi sat down across from her and told her everything. She went through it carefully, the way her mother had gone through it with her. The native mirror, the native chalk, the 7 eggs. She told her about the grinding, about the white wrapper, about the 12 o'clock sun. She told her that the spirit would come out when it saw its own reflection in the native mirror, and that she needed to be ready with the chalk and the eggs the moment that happened. She told her all of it. Aisha listened without interrupting once. Her hands were folded in her lap, and her eyes were on Amadachi's face the whole time. When Amadachi finished talking, the salon was quiet for a moment. Then Aisha said, "Where do I get these things?" Amadachi almost smiled, not because it was funny, just because of the way Aisha said it. No drama, no long questions, no back and forth, just straight to the point. This woman had been carrying this thing for years, and now that a door was showing itself, she was not going to stand at the entrance asking too many questions. She was walking through. "There is a market," Amadachi said. "My brother's neighbor told me about a place not far from here. They sell these kinds of things there." "Then let us go," Aisha said. She was already standing up. They went together. Aisha closed the salon for the morning, which she had never done on a weekday in years, and the two of them went to find what they needed. The market was the kind of place that exists in every Nigerian city, but that most people pretend they don't know about. Tucked between regular shops, easy to miss if you didn't know what you were looking for. The kind of place where the smell hits you before you see it. Dried herbs, something earthy and old, something smoky. The sellers there were mostly older women and a few men who looked like they had seen things that regular people hadn't. Aisha walked through that place like she had a list and a purpose. She found the native mirror first. It took a little searching because she needed one large enough to show her full body, and the small ones were more common. But they found it eventually. A wide, flat mirror with a dark wooden frame that looked older than it probably was. When Aisha picked it up and looked at the back of it, she nodded once, like something about it felt right. Then the native chalk, white and heavy, wrapped in a dry leaf. Then the eggs. The seller counted them out one by one into a small basket. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Native eggs, smaller than the ones you find in regular shops, the shells a slightly different color. Aisha paid for everything without bargaining. She just paid what they asked. Amadachi noticed that. Normally, every Nigerian bargains in a market. Aisha just paid, like she didn't want anything slowing this down. They went back to Aisha's house. It was a good house, a proper building in a quiet part of the area. 2 floors, painted yellow, the kind of house that money built without showing off too much. Inside, it was neat and simply furnished. No unnecessary things everywhere, just clean floors and good furniture, and a house that felt like the person living in it had their head on straight. And no mirrors anywhere. Not one. Amadachi noticed this immediately. The walls were bare where mirrors would normally hang. The bathroom had no mirror above the sink. Even the wardrobe doors were plain wood where most people would have a full-length mirror fitted. Aisha had been living like this her whole life. They set everything down on the sitting room floor. Aisha brought out the native chalk and sat down with a flat stone and began grinding. She did it slowly and steadily, pressing the chalk down in circles, working it into powder. It took a while. Real work, not something you rush. Amadachi sat nearby and watched without disturbing her. The sound of chalk on stone filled the quiet room, fine white powder gathering slowly. When the chalk was ground to Aisha's satisfaction, fine and smooth with no lumps, she gathered it carefully into a small bowl. They positioned the native mirror against the wall in the sitting room, standing it up properly, checking that it was stable. Aisha stood in front of it at a distance, and they checked that her full body, from the top of her head to her feet, would be visible when the wrapper came off. It was. The mirror was big enough. Then Aisha took the white wrapper and covered it completely, tucked the edges so no part of the mirror's surface was peeking out. The white cloth hung over it like a curtain. Everything was ready. The chalk powder sat in its bowl. The 7 eggs were lined up carefully on a small tray beside it, close enough to grab quickly. The white-covered mirror stood against the wall like a quiet thing waiting to wake up. They sat down to wait. The clock on Aisha's wall read 11:43. 1 hour and 17 minutes until 12. The 2 women sat in that sitting room, and the silence between them was not uncomfortable exactly. It was the silence of 2 people who both understand that something is about to happen, and that there is nothing left to do but wait for the time to come. Outside the window, Lagos was doing what Lagos always does. Noise, movement, life, cars, voices, someone selling something somewhere. All of it normal, all of it belonging to a world that had no idea what was sitting inside this yellow house on this quiet street. Aisha sat with her hands on her knees, looking at the white-covered mirror. Amadachi sat beside her, looking at the clock. The minutes moved slowly the way minutes do when you are watching them. 11:51, 11:08, 11:34. At some point Aisha spoke, not looking away from the mirror. "Whatever happens today," she said quietly, "thank you. You didn't have to do any of this." Amadachi looked at her. "I brought the mirror into your salon. Maybe I was supposed to." Aisha turned and looked at her then. Something passed between them that didn't need words. Then Aisha turned back to the clock. 11:47. 13 minutes. The room felt different now, slightly heavier, slightly cooler than it should have been given the heat outside, like something in the room was already aware of what was coming, like the air itself was paying attention. Aisha picked up the bowl of chalk powder and held it in both hands. Amadachi moved the tray of 7 eggs closer. 11:59. 6 minutes. Neither of them spoke again. 11:59. The second hand on the clock moved with the particular slowness of a thing that knows it is being watched. And then 12. Aisha reached out and grabbed the white wrapper. One pull, the cloth fell away from the mirror and dropped to the floor in a heap of white fabric. For one strange, suspended second, nothing happened. The mirror just stood there, showing Aisha her own reflection, her full self, from head to feet, staring back at her. And Aisha stood frozen, looking at her own face for the first time in her entire life, really looking. Not a glimpse, not an accident, her full face, her full body, right there in front of her. Even in that moment, Amarachi could see something move across Aisha's expression, something private, like meeting a stranger who has your face. Then the mirror cracked. Not physically, but something inside the glass shifted, like a light moving behind it, and the reflection warped for just a second, and then the room temperature dropped so fast and so hard that Amarachi actually gasped out loud. Her breath came out as visible mist in front of her face, in Lagos, in the middle of the afternoon. Then it came out. It didn't come out the way you imagine these things come out. There was no slow, dramatic emergence. It tore itself out of that mirror like something that had been held somewhere tight for too long and was furious about it. A shape, not fully solid, not fully smoke, something between the two. It had no clear face, but it had presence. Heavy and enormous and very, very old. The same coldness Amarachi had felt in her dream 3 nights ago hit her now like a wall. The voice came out of it like water rushing over stones. "How dare you?" Not loud. Somehow that made it worse. "How dare you look directly into that mirror?" It turned towards Aisha, all of its attention, all of that enormous cold presence, focused on her like a beam. Aisha panicked. You couldn't blame her. Everything she had been told her whole life, every rule she had lived by since she was old enough to understand, all of it had just been broken in the last 30 seconds, and now the thing she had spent her whole life fearing was standing in her sitting room, 3 feet in front of her face. Her hands shook. The eggs were in her right hand, all 7 of them cupped against her palm and her fingers, and when the spirit turned on her, she jerked backwards and 1 egg slipped. It hit the floor. The small native egg with its slightly off-colored shell just rolled away quietly under the chair like it didn't understand the significance of what it had just done. Aisha didn't have time to think about it. She threw the chalk powder. The white dust hit the spirit and the reaction was immediate. A sound came from it, not quite a scream, more like something being scraped against something else, an awful grinding sound. It recoiled slightly. The chalk was working. Then she threw the eggs, 1 after the other, fast, the remaining 6 in quick succession, throwing them the way you throw something at a thing you are terrified of, not with aim exactly, but with everything you have. The eggs hit the spirit, and each one produced that same awful scraping sound. The shape of it flickered, destabilized. For a moment, it looked like it was going to fall apart completely. But 7 was the number. 7 was what the instructions said. 6 was not 7. The spirit recovered. It didn't speak again. It was done with words. It moved at Aisha faster than anything that size should be able to move, and before she could step back, it was on her. Its hands, those not quite solid, not quite smoke hands, found her throat, not choking her the way a person chokes another person, something worse, like it was reaching inside her through her throat, trying to climb back into the place it had lived for so long. Aisha grabbed at it, but her hands went through it like water. Her face was going wrong, the color draining out of it, her eyes wide, her mouth open but no sound coming out. Her legs were starting to go weak under her. Amarachi was already moving. She had seen the egg roll under the chair. She dropped to her knees and reached under with 1 arm, her cheek almost on the floor, fingers scrambling across the tiles. The spirit had its back to her. It was entirely focused on Aisha, on what it was doing to Aisha, and that was the only time Amarachi had. Her hands found the egg. She grabbed it. She stood up in 1 movement and she threw it. She was not an athlete. She had no special aim. She just threw it as hard as she could at the back of the spirit with everything her arm had in it. The 7th egg hit. The sound that came out of the spirit was different from the others, different in the way that tells you immediately that something fundamental has just broken. Not a scraping sound this time, a shriek, high and long and full of something that might have been pain or might have been fury at the same time, the kind of sound that you will hear in your sleep for weeks afterwards. The spirit released Aisha. Aisha dropped to her knees, coughing, grabbing at her own throat with both hands. The spirit was coming apart. Whatever the seventh egg had done, whatever the combination of all 7 eggs and the chalk powder under that 12 o'clock sun had done, it was enough. The shape of it twisted and thinned and flickered like a candle in heavy wind. That enormous cold presence was shrinking, getting smaller and lighter and less. It let out one final sound, not the shriek this time, something quieter, and somehow that quiet sound was the most frightening thing in the whole room. Then it was gone. Just gone. No dramatic exit, no smoke trail, no wind rushing through the room. One moment it was there, falling apart at the edges, and the next moment it simply was not there anymore. The air in the room snapped back to normal temperature so fast that the sudden warmth felt strange. Amarachi's ears popped slightly. Silence. Real silence, the kind that comes after something very loud, even though the loud thing had not been sound exactly. Amarachi stood there for a second, just breathing. Then she crossed the room quickly and crouched down next to Aisha, who was still on her knees on the floor with both hands at her throat. "Aisha, Aisha, look at me." Aisha looked up. Her eyes were wet, not crying exactly, just the automatic response of eyes that have been through something. She was breathing, properly breathing, and slowly, as Amarachi watched, the color started coming back into her face. Amarachi put her arm around her shoulders and helped her up. They moved to the sofa and sat down together. The white wrapper was still on the floor. The native mirror stood against the wall, looking completely ordinary now, just glass and an old wooden frame. They sat there for a long time without talking. Outside, Lagos continued. Cars, voices, generator sounds, someone selling something down the road, life going on the way it always does, completely unbothered. Inside the yellow house on the quiet street, 2 women sat on a sofa and breathed. After a while, Aisha lifted her hands and looked at them, turned them over slowly, back and front, like she was seeing them properly for the first time in her life. She flexed her fingers. "They feel different," she said. Her voice was rough from what had happened to her throat, but she was smiling, just slightly, the smile of someone who has put down something very heavy. "My hands feel different. They feel like mine." Amarachi looked at her. "Are you okay?" Aisha thought about it for a real moment, not the automatic fine that people say when they don't want to talk about it. "Yes," she said. And she meant it. From that day, Aisha was free. She still opened her salon every morning. She still took her customers one after the other. The hair still came out neat and clean and strong the way it always had, but it took longer now. 8 hours for the styles that used to take 30 minutes. She had to turn some customers away, take fewer appointments, work at the pace of a normal human woman with normal human hands. She put a mirror on the wall of her salon, a big one, right in front of the chair the way every other salon has it. The first time she hung it up, she stood in front of it for almost 10 minutes, just looking at herself. Her customers thought it was strange. She didn't explain. The no mirror rule was gone. Customers could bring whatever they liked into her shop. The flooding crowds thinned as word spread that Aisha was slower now. Some customers left for faster stylists. Aisha let them go without chasing them. She had her houses, she had her cars, she had her accounts. She didn't need to take 12 customers a day anymore. She took 3, sometimes 4, and every one of those customers left her chair happy. Because even without the spirit, even with just her own 2 hands and her own pace and her own ordinary human talent, Aisha was still good. She had always been good. Maybe that had always been true and the spirit had just been sitting on top of something that was already there.